Teams must include at least one member based in sub-Saharan Africa. These are all very important rules that you will see in the CFP as well. The CFP is available on our website. If you don't have that, please do try and download that and go through it with us. So the eligible projects that we will be funding will be running for 12 months. They will start in July 2026. By then, we will announce all the recipients, and it should run until July 2027. Please be sure or note that this is not a residency call per se. It's not a research call, and it's not an arts administration or training program. It's also not a market feasibility study. Here we are really funding joint collaborative creation of artworks in the visual arts field. Eligible countries and eligible artists. We only allow teams to apply for this. You'll see later on when we go through the different steps on the application platform that we ask for team members all the way through. The size needs to make sense for the budget. For example, here we mean you can't apply for 20,000 euro if there's only 2 team members. That doesn't make sense at all. But if it has an impact and the art piece that you would like to create does justify that, it makes brilliant sense. So teams working in the visual art disciplines are welcome to apply, and team members must be at least 18 years old. Parental consent doesn't make the applicants under 18 eligible. So please, only 18 years and up. All members must be based in sub-Saharan Africa or the EU. When we say sub-Saharan Africa, we literally mean all of the countries. Very often people forget Comoros, Djibouti, Eritrea, Madagascar, Mauritius, Seychelles, Somalia, and South Sudan. These are all eligible countries. In the EU, sadly, Norway, Switzerland, and the UK are not eligible countries. They are not part of the European Union, even though they might be part of the EG. Yeah, we've just to double up on what I just explained, teams with members under 18 years of age are not eligible, and neither are any staff members or family members of Goethe Institute, Expertise France, Institut Français, or the European Commission, and entities under EU restrictive measures. At the moment, that is not a very clear list, but that list is constantly published on the EU website. So we hope to achieve that by the end of 12 months, a successful team will have developed an artistic concept together. They will have created a finished artwork. Those examples are clear there: painting, sculpture, video installation, photography, digital work, publication of an art project or an art object. They will have presented this to an audience either physically or digitally, or both, and they should be able to show that they have done some really long-lasting relationship building on this project. So they've built professional relationships that extend beyond the project period. For us, that is the sign of success, and those are the kinds of projects that demonstrate that in the application phase that will achieve or receive grants. Now it comes to the more practical things. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Siwe. She's going to show you exactly what it looks like on the grant application portal. We just call it GAP for short, but that stands for the Goethe application portal. Siwe, I'm going to stop sharing so that you can carry on.
Thank you, Francois. Good day, everyone. I hope you can all hear me. My name is Siwe, as Francois has already introduced me. I'm one of the GAP officers working in the project, and yeah, this session is just to take you through step by step on how to navigate the GAP platform so that you can submit your application. All right, so that's what it looks like.
Got it.
All right, got it. So we'll just share a link in the chat that you can access so that you can go to the GAP portal. But even if you just Google Goethe application portal, you can find GAP. So once you are on the platform, you'll either be asked to create a profile or you log in if you've already created a profile. And this is a central place where you'll submit all your applications if you are submitting for any of our grants. So this is a central place for all the applications that you will be submitting throughout this project period. So you can create a new application, or once you've already created the application, you can already edit the application. So that's what I've done here, is that once you create a new application, then you can select the funding type that you're asking for, which is the visual arts collaboration grant that we are working with right now. So I'm going to edit my application because I've already started it. So with regards to the GAP portal, it just provides a brief overview here of the actual key dates and all the information that you need to know before starting your application. And you can also have access to the call for proposals document here, as well as the budget template form, which my colleague will take you through as well a bit later. And then you can click save and next. It's important to keep saving your application so that you can go back and edit, and that you can work on your application well before the deadline. That's also one of the things that we'd encourage you to do, is to start early so that you have enough time to ask any questions if you get stuck along the way. So you'll see here on the left, there is a column which has all the tabs, I'd say, of your actual application. So the one we're on now is for your team, and that's where you add your details. And then these are the details of the lead contact person. So the lead contact person is the one who's going to be receiving all the communications for all the projects. This has to be someone who checks their emails regularly. And this is the person who will also sign the contract if you are awarded. So then there's a drop-down menu here of the professional role of the lead team member. So then you can select here, and then if you select other visual arts professional, you can you'll be prompted to specify if it's other. With regards to the lead person, if the lead person is not based in Sub-Saharan Africa, then you'll just have to explain how you've engaged with the visual arts sector in Sub-Saharan Africa before, whether it's been through employment or if you've collaborated with on other projects in the region, or if you've had partnerships or any professional networks that you can prove. So this is to show that you've previously engaged with the sector before. So this is only if you're based outside of Sub-Saharan Africa and you're the lead person. So then here, you can also attach a supporting document if there is something that you'd want to showcase to demonstrate that professional engagement that you've had before. So this is optional and only for the lead applicant if they are based outside of Sub-Saharan Africa. So then there's also an option to upload a link as well. So then you can add other team members here. You can just keep populating the role of that second team member. Remember, as Francois mentioned, that there is a minimum of 2 people for this project, and that the maximum is not defined. This is only based on what makes sense for your budget. So then here, you'll just keep adding your team members, as many as you want, and you just click the plus button to add more team members as you go along. And for each of them, there's a space to add your bio, work samples, and your CV, etc. So the field for work samples or your portfolio is optional, but it is recommended as well. The other thing we just wanted to mention is not to kind of overthink the work samples. If you just have a link to your online portfolio, like a Behance profile or Instagram link, that's also been accepted. If in terms of this section around team collaboration, let's say you've never worked with, if you are based in Germany and you've never worked with an artist in Mali before, that is okay. You can just explain that and just explain how your work complements each other. And it's okay if you've never collaborated together. It's not going to work at your disadvantage or anything like that. The jury is more concerned about how you think of working together, how you've intentionally wanted to collaborate. So we want to see new collaborations. So this is a space where you can indicate that and just share how your expertise kind of complement each other and how they support this project. So then you can click save and next while you've done that. So as you see, when you go along the form is that now I have an error because there's one field that I didn't fill in. So you'll be aware constantly so that you know of certain spaces where you have missed out certain information. So I'll just move on to the next page, which is about your project. So this is the most important aspect of your proposal. And here you will basically see a description that will guide your answer. You have about 5,000 word limit so that you can explain exactly what it is that you'll create, what is the visual output that you're going to work together on, and how will you work together? What is the contribution of the European team members versus the Sub-Saharan Africa team member, or whoever is going to be involved in the project? It needs to be really clear who is doing what is everyone's contribution. It's also important to explain where this is happening. Is it happening in Germany, or are you exhibiting in Mali, for example? And when this is happening. So this is really the bulk of your proposal and presentation, and it's the most important. Just something also to highlight here is that the most common mistake that artists often make is around focusing a lot on the artistic concept, which is great. We do want to know what the concept is, what exactly you're working on, but they sometimes forget the presentation and the audience engagement. So we want to know, where does this land? Where is it going to end up? How is it going to benefit the people in that certain space or community or area that you're going to be exhibiting in? So what does it leave behind? So the long-term impact is quite important for us to see what value does this create, because we do want to see this collaboration and how it's going to extend beyond the project. So I think this is the space where you can spend most of your time just really thinking through intentionally about what it is exactly that you want to do. In terms of the dissemination and audience engagement, which is what I was sharing about, where does it end up? How are you going to share this? It's also quite important because you'll see in the call for proposals that dissemination and audience engagement actually counts for 20% of the score. So that's something that can guide you in terms of seeing what is really important and what the jury really looks out for. So that's the section on your project. And then you'll see the next section is around venue and dissemination. So here we really want to see what is the current status of your presentation partnership. If you're coming from the Congo and you want to go to Belgium, for example, you have to click here and share what is the current status. Have you confirmed the venue yet? Have you been in talks with the venue, but they haven't really confirmed your interest? Or if you're doing an online or digital presentation, that's also okay, that you can indicate that here. Or if the process is still kind of, you're still deliberating with your host or your partner. It's important to be honest here. You don't have to lie. Please just be honest, and because the jury can really tell when you've kind of overstated your confirmation when it's actually not true. So just be honest in this section and let us know at what stage you're at. We just want to see that you've already started thinking about this. So here in the next section, 3.2, you can implementation. So maybe if it's a letter of interest, or maybe if there's been email correspondence from your venue or your host saying that we're really keen on hosting this, just share anything that can help us see what it is exactly that you've already started on in terms of working on the relationship of where your visual collaboration is going to be hosted. If you can't provide a link, it's also okay. You can just give a brief explanation in terms of where you're at and what steps you've currently taken to secure that venue. So as I mentioned before, digital presentations are allowed. So as I mentioned before, digital presentations are allowed, but you must also explain in the description in terms of how the audience will access the work. So we just need to see if you've thought about this. So digital presentations are also eligible. This can include things like live streams, or if you have a virtual exhibition, or even through social media. So these also just need to be carefully thought out. The format of your output is not really that important. We just need to see that you've really thought about it and put some intention around it, which will also be reflected in your project description. So here, then you'll have space to explain around the digital presentation and what is your strategy to reach the different audiences. Then the next section is around the project timeline. So this project is for 1 year, it's 12 months, from July 2026 until July 2027. So this section just requires you to give an overview. You can see that it's around 500 characters for each of the quarters, where you have to explain exactly what are the different milestones for each of these sections. It's not necessarily a full project management plan that will be fleshed out during the contracting stage and orientation, but essentially the first quarter must just show around the concept development, what it is that exactly you're planning. Maybe it's planning, it's preparation, it's finding other local partners, or whatever it is, to just develop the concept that you've already proposed. And then the second quarter would be now for production. Maybe you're now into production, you're going on different sets that you've identified for your documentary, for example, and you're actually shooting, you're in production stage, or you're creating the installation that you want to present, for example. Then the third quarter would be around finalizing all of these outputs, ensuring that everything is up to the standard, or anything that you need to kind of get the project to a sense of finality that can then be presented. And then the fourth quarter will be around public presentation. So these quarters or milestones that I've just shared here are also in the call for proposals document in section 6.1.5, and that has a lot more detail in terms of how you can guide your own breakdown of the actual project milestones. So that's for the project timeline. And then from all the activities that you said you're going to do, and all of the components, all the people that will be involved in the project, you now need to develop a budget. So here, my colleague will explain a bit later in terms of the actual budget template and how to fill it out, and just navigating that section. So I'm just going to skip that here, but this is where you would upload your budget template. And then you can share any other supporting materials. These are optional. So this would be maybe other areas where your work has been profiled, any catalogs you have, any artist statements, or just any additional letters of partnership or support that really add value to your project presentation in terms of what you are suggesting for funding. And then here you also have an option of adding a link. Just ensure that if you add a Google Drive link, that it doesn't require us to request access. Make sure that anyone with the link can view, because we aren't able to individually follow up on people. So just make sure that the links you share are actually accessible. And then here is just declarations around the language. And if you required any support, my colleague will also take you through that a bit later. Then it's to the declaration. So this is this section is just to help you to check whether you are aligned with all the requirements that Francois was speaking about in the beginning, that this grant is around the creation, supporting the creation of finished artistic work for public presentation, right? So it just helps you to check here that you are compliant basically with what is being requested. And then the authority to submit is just confirming the contact details of the lead applicant that you would have provided details for before, and more declarations. And then here was around the feedback in terms of the whole process, any other important notes building up to your final submission. So this is just to check against yourself. Have you actually submitted all the required documents? Are the links working? Is all the necessary information provided? And just final checks for yourself. So just to reiterate again that it's important to start working on this application weeks before or just as soon as possible, so that once you get to the stage that you're not in a rush and you don't miss any details that are required. And then the last tab is for application submitted. So here you will get prompts to say if there's any sections that you have not filled out, then it won't allow you to send the application itself. So as you can see here, the team tab is not fully populated. So once everything is there and uploaded, then you can save your presentation and then there'll be a prompt to submit once all the sections are filled out. So yeah, that's it around navigating the application platform. And yeah, hope that was clear for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Siwe. I couldn't get past your 233 emails waiting for you to get to after this. I'm going to hand over to Clem now. Clem is our financial and admin colleague, and he will go a little bit more into the budget templates. I see that there is a lot of questions already in the Q&A section. Please do go and look there if you have questions, and we are constantly answering them there. So please use that as you have been. Clem, I'm going to hand over to you.
Good day, everyone. As Francois introduced myself, I'm Clement, the finance and admin team. Can you hear me? Sorry. Okay, apologies. So yeah, I'm part of the finance and admin team. So I'm going to be going through understanding the budgets and some of the requirements that you might have and answering any questions that you may have in regards to the budget. But I think first and foremost, for the applicants or you as the applicants, basically the first rule I'd like to obviously say to you is please use the budget template we have provided. I think that's like one of the easiest requirements in terms of actually getting through your application from our side. We try and obviously not, if the template is not in the same format, then it's a bit of something that we can obviously say, listen, it's not in our correct template, and we obviously at the discretion to actually leave out the application if the budget template is not as we have provided it. So then from there, so from there, we're actually going to start with, I don't know why we crossed out there, but it says, can we obviously pay the team members within the application there? So team members are eligible to actually get artist fees and basically stipend in terms of the project timeline and when you actually do your project. So the amount should be obviously proportionate to the work and consistent with local market rates. We will obviously have that discretion in terms of assessing that as well from our side. So that does mean that you can get like a monthly in terms of your team members. I think you would obviously assess that based on where the relevant team members are also coming from. So in case your team is obviously having members from the EU and then some from sub-Saharan Africa, we take that into consideration in terms of actually allocating your fees accordingly. So this is a project where you will be required to maybe buy equipment and certain assets in terms of your project outline, in terms of what you're actually trying to achieve in terms of your objectives. So we have acknowledged that, and there is assets or equipment that you can buy. You will stipulate and basically give us a breakdown within the budget template itself. So yes, but then this equipment must be necessary for the project and be used proportionate to the budget. So we can't you can't necessarily have assets which are not going to be used to full extent of the project. So I'd actually just need people just to actually utilize or the applicants just to utilize the assets as and when within the timelines that you have. So if you are going to be acquiring certain assets at certain times within your timeline, to be utilized basically for the project as a whole. What can't we spend on? So there is no standalone research or or documentation or residence focused or experimentation without the finished work, no capacity building or training programs, no market research or feasibility studies. So those are the exclusion in terms of regards to that, because we actually looking for an output in terms of the project that you're taking on to actually give us like an end product basically. You're gonna have to forgive me, I'm not maybe as clued up with the jargon in terms of from an artistic perspective, but if you do have some of the statements which I do say which might not necessarily align with the jargon from the cultural and artistic perspective, please do not feel afraid to drop a comment there so I can actually assist in maybe giving further explanations. Must we provide justification for all the line items? I think this is very essential in terms of us also understanding to what extent your expenditure or your costs have actually aligned with the narratives that you've given within the applications. So there must be a tie-in basically from what you provided in terms of narrative or what you're going to be doing, and also the budget outlines, and also how that ties up with all the costs. So they have to speak to each other, because if there's no congruency between the two, it also leads to the fact that we can not necessarily let your application go through. So if they don't tie up, then just make sure they do tie up. So if you know there's going to be expectations of certain times when you're going to be traveling to actually do the exhibition, maybe in a different country, that must tie up back to the budget. So based on that assessment, we could obviously say that it's not tying up. There's a bit of a misalignment here. So please do take the time, as they said, within the first quarter to actually make sure you firstly have to think about the whole project as a whole, but then also just making sure that everything will tie from the actual operations to the finance side. So there's a budget template which you provided, the specific sections, artist, and actually, let me just go through that. I'm going to currently share from my side. Just let me know if you can see. Okay, there we go. There's a couple of notes on this quick. Sorry, I'm just having problems moving. There you go. So we do have the cover page. There's some rules here that you can just maybe just read into in terms of just understanding exactly what's going to be happening on the budget. So there's other further notes here in terms of the actual budget line items. So you get the superscripts here, which number 4 we relate basically to notes on the budget, notes to the budget plan. So there's 3 or 4 tabs basically, which are going to be the budget plan, the justification, the funding sources, and the assets as well. I think in terms of the assets tab, we did note that the initial budget template that we did not have the assets tab, but we're going to be looking to actually rectify that going forward, and then just making sure that you guys do have this assets tab going forward. I think we'll just communicate as we actually get this updated on our side. So the other tabs nothing's changed significantly. We just needed to add the assets tabs just to make sure that we understand exactly what assets you're going to be acquiring and equipment you're going to be. By assets, I mean equipment. But let's just start off with the budget. So we carry on budget number 1. We have the personnel costs, which is obviously team members and fees and any stipends. So we can have any aspects of, if you're going to have technical people basically assisting you in the project itself, you can actually outline the amounts here. So if it's going to be, and I think this is also going to be a bit of the tricky part from your side in terms of assessing the timelines and when these costs are actually incurred. As they stated, there is going to be different phases of your of your project in terms of actually having the intended objectives reached or intended output at the end. So this would just have the personal aspects in terms of how you're going to be doing your technical stuff. So if you expect maybe some technical stuff for a period of maybe they're going to be 3 months at the end in terms of assisting towards the back end of your project, you would actually put it in here and say maybe these are just going to be estimates, just rough estimates. But I think in your terms of your case, you would obviously find out in terms of what expected costs you're going to be expecting during the period of your projects and take that into consideration in drafting up the budget itself. So if it's going to be for the technical staffs, maybe for the 3 months, then it would be for the 3 units for 3 months, and then maybe I'll just say it's a rough estimate, as I said, so it's going to be the 300. As you can see already, this is going to populate on its own. So what we try to avoid is try to make this as easy as possible without necessarily trying to break the template. So we've locked certain cells which you cannot enter into. So most of them are in gray here, which is what I've just basically stated. You're going to lock all of those cells in terms of this is what's going to be happening going through here. Then you might have, I'm not going to go through everything aspect of it, but this is basically just a run through to give you an idea of what would happen there. And then maybe for yourselves as a team. So this one will be a bit more, I think, more technical in terms of if there's 3 of you within your collaborative group, and then you're going to have for a period of the 12 months, and you have to obviously put the equal sign. So that's 36 months. Then if you're going to be doing it at, again, we'll just say you do that, it'll come through like that. So that would be your technical for your team members in terms of 3 members at a period of 12 months, at the stipend amount, maybe €100 or whatever the case may be related to your relevant market rates. You would put it through in that regard. So then thereafter we have the second part, which relates to event costs. So you might have some form of event cost in terms of maybe meeting or facilitating events in terms of actually getting to your intended output or intended objectives. So we've obviously highlighted the points where it's going to be catering, honorarium in terms of maybe people coming through to speak, in terms of advising, or whatever the case may be. The venue hire, when and if it's necessary, this is plays to that, and also the end event at the end in where you would actually maybe have the venue itself. Any equipment you might hire during that period or for those events. So, and then the staffing related to the temporary or that event at that point in time or that date. So what I've also done is, or what we've done is basically for the line item at the bottom, you can always add additional line items as and when it's necessary to add them. So if you go and you say, okay, you can add the line items here at the bottom, and then if it will actually just add additional lines, and you can input your item that you might need here. So in case you need something for brushes. So if you need brushes, you just put it in your add the items, and then you'd actually input how many do you need the brushes. So let me get mine. Apologies, brushes. And I don't know, I think this might be a bit too small. I don't know if you can see. Can you zoom in? Okay, apologies. Okay, brushes, there we go. And then we can say if there's going to be for that event only, for one event, and you're expecting per event, so you can just copy paste. And you put the number of units you must really need during that period. If it's going to be for more than one events or 2 events at maybe €50 each, it'll come through. So you just need to, it'll come through and then it'll do the calculations. I think what will happen is if you might have any additional issues with the template, when it comes through, it will just, you can drag down these amounts in terms of the calculations. So yeah, that's something we most really just need to look on my side, but in terms of the calculation at the end for any additional line items. But if you put the line items in there and do the calculations here, it will total up at the bottom. So as I said, 2 events at €20. It comes through at 40. 3 events for catering, maybe you didn't cater for the other ones, it comes in through at 50. The total amounts are coming through. So the calculations are coming through as and when is needed. For the production costs, we basically going to be utilizing in terms of actually the phase where you get into production. So if you need workspaces or consumables and stationaries, you would actually enter it during this period, yeah. So this is where you would have some of your technical equipment coming through and some equipment in terms of actually facilitating the production. So what we've tried to do here is actually say that you must link to the asset sheet here, especially in terms of the equipment that you're going to be purchasing. So in this case, there's equipment which you can utilize. So if in case you are doing visual in terms of photography, you might say something in terms of maybe the camera, you might need a camera in terms of that actual aspect of it. So here you would state the description, the description in terms of the asset, and then you would state whether you're hiring it or you're purchasing. So if you're purchasing, purchase it through there. And then again, the justification in terms of why this asset or the specific equipment would be needed and utilized within the project. So that might come to €1,000. This gives us a calculation for all the assets you're going to be having here. Once you get the calculation at the bottom, you can put it through to your technical equipment that you're going to be getting in terms of the assets that you're going to be utilizing. From consumables and stationery, depending on exactly what you might be utilizing, I think that's at your discretion in terms of saying we're going to be needing pencils, pens, and other maybe books or items that you might need during that period. So you might have a rough estimate in terms of maybe you're purchasing per month, but I don't think that would be the case. You might purchase maybe expected to purchase every 3 months in terms of equipment. And then you have maybe at €20 per actual purchases. And the technical equipment, as we saw here, we're tying this back up to this amount here for now. If that's only the thing that we're going to have, it's going to be the 101 and then 1,000 for that unit cost for those items. Software is going to be any items that you might utilize in the production or in the actual facilitating of all your timeline. So it can be from Adobe if you need to use Adobe software, if you need to use something related maybe to your facilitating mailing for individuals, whatever the case is, you would put them under here in terms of what you are going to be like basically needed or what's going to be needed and what's going to be utilized. Your production materials can be like basically from materials which you see for productions, I guess, like if you're going to have like some form of a shoot or clothing and that aspect of it, you would actually put it through here. But then again, obviously, most of this should tie up to your narrative. So I do want to make sure that you take the necessary time to go through the line items here. Notice which line items need to be adjusted or which line items you might actually add in addition to the line items that we've catered for here. So this is just a template for as a starting point in terms of some of the costs that you might incur. Then from the marketing and visibility aspects, we have the communication material and publication. So you might get to the end of your cycle, basically with the project timelines and say that we're going to be getting out certain communication, certain material in terms of making sure the event is actually visible. So then any visibility measure that you might take, if there's any campaigns you might do from the coverage aspect of your making sure that this the project, the end objective is actually going to be seen by the masses, because that's what we're trying to achieve, that there is people that will come through and see your works and the artwork that you produced during that period. Then we get to the travel costs. So for travel costs, there's generally this flat rate in terms of whether you travel within inter Africa or outside of from Europe to Africa. So those rates generally are 1,500, and then for the Africa to Africa, and then for the Europe to Africa is €1,000. But also what you'll be afforded is the rates which relate to the individual country that you're going to be traveling to. So what I've did is break this down between your travel, which is going to be international, for individuals within the team. So if you're traveling internationally, so if there's you're coming from South Africa and you're going towards, or you're going from, let's just say, okay, you're coming from Germany and you're going towards, let's say, Cameroon. So as soon as you actually select the place that you're going to be going to, it gives you the rates here. What you're going to then have to do is facilitate the this is normally empty in terms of the item that comes through here. So once you fill in these items, it's going to be how many nights are you going to expect it to stay there in terms of actually facilitating your event or the meeting or whatever the case may be. So if you're going to be traveling to and you're expected to be there for maybe let's say 14 days or 14 nights, it gives you the calculation at the end of the day. And then the daily allowance for travel, they will be given, this is your rate that you're going to have there. And you can actually put for 14 days as well to give you the total amount. Other consideration you need to take into account is maybe transportation to and from your relevant facilities that you're going to be working from or working at. And this will be basically saying that if you're going to be expecting to travel maybe for that period of that 14 nights away, that you're going to be expecting maybe 5 days and 5 days the following week. So if it's going to be 5, it's going to be 10 at the end. And then you're expecting to spend maybe 20 euros a day, 20 euros back and forth. So it'll do the calculations as you go through there. There's going to be a visa. It's normally just once off those ones in terms of that for the travel. If you're traveling only once out to the relevant destination, and you might have just the estimate amounts basically in terms of your calculations there. So that gives you your total amounts in terms of actual traveling from that perspective. Then if you're gonna have local travel, there is local travel, but it's also just depends whether you are in our case, as I said, you're in Germany, but you're expected to meet up in and around Germany. So as I said, there's like timelines to all of this. So you just need to actually see to what extent you're going to be traveling. Are you going to be in one specific area and then moving around there? And then this can only be travel where you're going away. So where I'm from, I'm staying in Joburg. If I was going to be traveling in and around Joburg, those costs would not necessarily be covered, would only be covered with if I went to Durban and I was going to meet up someone with my team member in Durban. And we get 5 nights away or 2 nights away. And then you'd say, okay, this is South Africa, sorry, forgot. Let me change that to SA quick so it makes sense. So other city. So you get the rate. So 5 nights away, they give you the accommodation rate. And then for being away from home, you get another 6 for the day and the night afterwards. Then that's going to be your cost there for being away from there. And then if you have any costs that you have in terms of fuel, if you got your own transportation, again, if you're going to be traveling maybe with Uber or any form of alternative sources of transportation, you can just add along to this. So in this case, we'll just say maybe it's for a full tank, we'll just say maybe, I don't know, 20 euros. Again, this is just an example. And then I'll give you the cost from there. Then we get to the bottom end of the budget, which is any miscellaneous items which are basically going to be incurred in line with the actual project itself that do not necessarily fit in with within these other sections, which is the travel, the marketing and visibility, production costs. Production cost and personnel cost and event cost. I think then from just the justification side, it's still the same layout here. It's just that you have to give further explanations of why those costs were incurred. So that's the justification case. And then from here, it picks up all the amounts that you have. And from here, you can just state whether if it's going to be over the 20,000 and you're expecting to get certain co-funding, this is where you can put it in. So your costs for your budget here might be over and above the 20,000 we give, but you need to substantiate where you're going to get the additional funding from. So if there's benefits in kind where you might have somebody giving you accommodation, that can come off here. If there's somebody that's going to be giving you items like equipment, which you might be able to use, you'd state it here. So so that's basically the quick run through in terms of my budget. But then remember, the end, one of the criteria is that it's going to have to be below the 20,000 Rand in terms of costs. I mean, 20,000 euros, my apologies about that. The reference sheet, you don't have to touch because this is just a reference sheet to help you in terms of what the costs are coming from the travel. And again, the assets, you can just put all your assets here in terms of what you're expecting to be utilizing, but it needs to tie back to the technical equipment on this sheet here. And that's why it aligns back to that. So I think from my side, that's the brief brief overview from my side, but as stated on here, you can get in touch with us in terms of any questions that you might have, any issues you might have on the template side. Please do raise them, and then we can obviously try and make sure we can assist you in that regard. Thank you very much for coming through and attending, and I wish you all the best, and we look forward to going through your applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Clement. That was very detailed and very small at the beginning. I'm really happy to see that you also cater for older generations like myself. Could you please stop sharing your screen? Then I can do that again, and I can hand back over to Siwe.
Thanks, Francois. You can just skip to the next slide. So some of these things I already mentioned during the walkthrough on GAP, which is around what the jury is actually assessing for. This is also found in the call for proposals document. So essentially, the project is funding either partnerships within the same country, for artists across Southern Africa from different countries, or they can be European member states based artists that are collaborating with artists based in Sub-Saharan Africa. So because of these different partnerships or collaborations happening across Africa, within Africa, between Africa and Europe, we are looking to see if there is equitable partnership. So in terms of the roles, who is doing what? Is there shared decision making in that sense? So that's one of the biggest parts that count towards the evaluation of your projects. The second is around artistic quality and innovation. So it's really, we just want to see the quality of the work that's going to be produced. What is the vision? Have you really thought through in terms of how unique this is, in terms of its innovation, its contribution to the visual arts sector, and how distinct the collaboration is? As we mentioned before, new collaborations are encouraged and invited to apply. So we really want to see that level of innovation and unique projects coming through. And then there's also the score for around dissemination and audience engagement. Where is the venue or platform? What is the audience? Have you really thought through how this is going to contribute to the area that you're going to be exhibiting at, to the community that you're going to be visiting? What is it going to be leaving behind in terms of now the longer term impact? Have you really thought through around the dissemination strategy and your audience? Is a digital platform the best space that you think is going to help you to reach the audiences that you want to reach? So it's just around consideration. Is the type of dissemination strategy relevant to what you are presenting? And then around project design and feasibility, are the timelines realistic? Is the budget really aligned with the activities that you are proposing? And then around the longer term impact, as I mentioned, is this going to help you develop in terms of your careers, your profiles, expanding your networks, adding value to the ecosystem? So on the side there is just a note to say that we are really looking for high quality applications, and there's a 75% threshold, meaning that if the jury has scored your application for 75% and above, then that means it's a really good quality application and those will be funded. And this decision by the jury is final and they won't be re-evaluated or queried. Once the scoring is done, we won't be revisiting any of the scoring decisions. Then just in terms of the timeline, as you've mentioned, the deadline is on the 17th of April. If you are wondering how you can, for example, submit in, if you are French speaking, for example, and want to submit an application, we are able to provide guidance via email if there's something that you need, but there is a limit to that in terms of the deadline for those queries, and that's the 3rd of April. And then for general queries, the last day to query is the 10th of April. After this date, we won't be able to answer any more questions regarding the actual application. And then we aim to announce the results around the 8th of June, but this is obviously dependent on the number of applications that we received, and that is ideally around the time that we would like to start contracting and onboarding the other successful applicants around the 15th of June. Just to emphasize again, we won't be accepting email applications, only through the Goet application platform that I was taking you through earlier. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Siwe. Once again, I'm pointing everybody towards the Q&A section. Some of the questions that have come in there before I hand over to my next colleague, Lucille Diosi. I wanted to answer some of the questions that seem to be recurring around audiovisual productions. If you are doing video art, then this grant program is something for you. If you are doing an animation project with relevant distribution, producing, etc., cinema showings, etc., then there is another program that is done by a sister grant program of ours for audiovisual productions that would like to strengthen audiovisual exchange within Africa. This program is really focused around visual arts, and sure, film is visual arts, but there is a fine line. You know that as a filmmaker. So please, I see that question recurring quite often in that Q&A. Lucille, may I please hand over to you? Please introduce yourself also to our colleagues. Thanks.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Francois. Can everyone hear me? Can I get a thumbs up? Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucille Diosi, and I am part of the knowledge sharing and outreach officers alongside my colleague Dumisane Mnisi, who is currently also online, somewhere here. And I will be taking you through for this component, accessibility, connectivity, and language support. Okay, let me try to, I am just struggling to get the text of, okay, perfect. Apologies. So I will be taking you along accessibility, connectivity, and language support. So for connectivity and data, it's more of a reminder than anything else to say if you are starting your application process, and your encounter in terms of data and your connection and you're having issues, to please continue saving your work and save your work through drafts, and also use share links so that you don't miss out on anything. And we go to language support. For this component, we do accept applications in French, Portuguese, and also in English. And if you are someone who needs language support, please email eup-ssa@goet.de before 3 April.
However, could I quickly just jump in there? I just noticed something. We only accept English-speaking applications.
Oh, okay.
And if things need to be translated, We can gladly help you and show you where to find those things, but we only accept English-speaking applications. This has got to do with the way in which we have to report to our funders.
Okay.
Thanks, Lucille.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Thank you so much. As Francois has mentioned, we do accept English applications, and we also encourage you use AI tools if you need assistance for anything that you would want to provide. But however, keeping in terms of your supported documents, they always need to remain in English. And then we go to GAP portal. If you inquire across any technical issues, please email us at support.gap@goet.de. And if you have any questions that you would like to ask us, kindly email them at eup-ssa@goet.de. And for late inquiries, kindly send them before 10 April. I have to emphasize on this part to say, if you require any assistance or if you would like for us to help you on any way possible, kindly send them before 10 April so we can give you the best assistance as we can. And also for geographical reach, we would love for this project to exceed beyond South Africa. And we encourage you, if you have contacts with any practitioners from other sub-Saharan countries in East Africa, West Africa, and also Central Africa, please kindly share this call with them so they can also be able to apply and get the best assistance as possible. And also for support and contact information, if you are looking at getting full information of current call for proposal, kindly go to our website at www.goet.de/AEPC. And based on what we have told you now, and you seem to be keen to apply, please go to our portal at gap.goet.de and see what we can offer you. And if you would love to access our budget template, it also is available as part of our GAP portal. You can go check it out there, but we kindly ask that you do not change or modify anything from that template. And if you are seeking support, you're not quite sure how to navigate the whole application system, kindly again send us an email at support.gap@goet.de. And if you have any additional queries, email us at eup-ssa@goet.de. Again, for language support, we are available to assist you with anything that you would require. Kindly contact us at eup-ssa@goet.de before 3 April. And again, for any other late inquiries or you have questions, you're not sure how to navigate, kindly contact us before 10 April 2026. Again, I'm emphasizing on this part. Please don't wait until the 10 to contact us because we won't be of full assistance to you. Kindly share anything or ask us any questions before then, and we can be able to assist you and give you the full scope that you would need. Thank you so much, colleagues, and I wish you all of the best with your applications. Thank you.
Lucille, thank you so much. And it was so clear. It was so brilliant. You know what they say, if you want to reach someone, you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you tell them, and then you tell them what you have told them.
Yes.
And I think that we have made it very helpful and clear to everybody that the most important thing is, please, if you need help to fulfill out your application form, if you struggle at all, reach out to us. That is basically the most important thing. The field of the visual arts is very large.
Yeah.
But it isn't performing arts. It's very simple. We have a different call for performing arts under Work Package 3 that is administered by our colleagues from Paris and France. They are running those, and they will also be launching for performing arts later on this year. This grant call specifically is for visual arts, and we can't wait to see your applications on the 17th of April, and we will only be able to help you until the 10th of April. Thank you very much. Just lovely to have you all here. Please, everybody has had a moment now to screenshot the screenshots with the email addresses. Shout out to us if we can if we can help you, or if we haven't been able to answer your question in the Q&A. I believe we've answered most of them, and we'll still be around like 10 minutes or so to answer the last questions. But otherwise, please reach out by email. It was lovely to have you. Thank you very much, colleagues. Best of luck with your submissions. We are keeping our fingers crossed for you.